Hey guys, it's Amber from NotableInk.com and I am back with a freehand Copic card here today, and the igloo and the stamp that you see is from Heffy Doodle Eskimo Kisses, and I kind of built my scene knowing that I wanted to add these elements. So here are the Copic markers that we're going to use today. You can pause here in case you want to jot those down if you want to recreate this, but I definitely encourage you to use your own markers that you have in your collection. You may not have the same ones as I do. So I have a W10 marker here, and I've just roughed in our horizon line and a bit of a mountain outline. Now I'm going to take Y00 and I'm going to create a sun. And then I will take YR000 and add kind of these sun rays around that, and then also a reflection of the sun on the snow that's going to be down below. So if you follow me, you know that I'm pretty new to this whole freehand Copic background situation. So this isn't a card that is for any particular blog hop or company. This is just something that I sat down and wanted to give a try. I got this stamp set at Creativation and hadn't used it yet, and so I was inspired by the wintry scenes and wanted to do another background. So I have BG000 here, and I'm just adding some streakiness into the skyline there. I believe that is the lightest blue marker that I have, and so that's the one that I reach for pretty often. It's actually getting a little bit dry, and now I'm going to come in with B00, and I'm going to roughen some clouds. So I'm going to leave some negative space for my clouds, because I know if I don't do that now, I will lose my highlights. Just in the nature of kind of taking those streaks across the page, I knew I would lose them. So I just kind of roughed in the outline of them, and then I'll go back in and add texture for the clouds later. So what I have off to the side, I just Googled a picture of a wintry scene, snow, mountains in the background kind of situation, and I'm just using that as a reference. So here I have BV20, and I'm just adding a bit of shadows to the cloud and, just kind of dotting it in there. Now I have C00, and I'm just softening that up with the lightest cool gray that I have. And I probably will go in at some point with the colorless blender and right now, and soften that up even more. So I didn't leave too much white there, but as I get the sky to be a little bit darker, they will start to look lighter. So I'm just adding some streaks of the B00, coming back in with the BG000. And then I'll also darken up some of the yellows that I have in there as well. So here I have, this I think is the BV, what is this? No, this is B91. So I decided that I needed some, again, because my clouds were looking a little dark and gray, I needed to add darker blue to the sky in order to get those to whiten up. It's a little easier to make everything else darker than to turn something you've already turned gray whiter. Now I could have gone in with more of the colorless blender, but I felt like that might make it a little bit muddy, so that was kind of my thought process there. So I'm coming back in actually with a Y21, so I'm adding a darker yellow to the sky. I'm outlining the sun, which is going to give it a kind of a separation from the sky a little bit more, and I'll go back in with the Y00, add another layer to the sun, and then I'll just blend that out to the sides as well. So I like the way that that's looking. I like the darker sky for sure. I'm going to add just a few more streaks of the BG000, a little bit more of the YR000, and then we should be moving on to the mountains pretty soon. We're darkening up the yellow a little bit. So I'm just looking at the picture, I'm looking at my clouds, and I'm just building up the color as much as I need to in order to get that look. So if you're following me, then you know I'm kind of on this Copic journey, and so I thought I would share this so that you could learn along with me, because again, I'm not super experienced with these backgrounds, and I'm kind of just learning as I go, and I hope that you guys maybe learn some things along with me. So before I roughed in the mountains, I decided that I wanted some pine trees. Now, that wasn't in the photo that I was looking at. It really was just mountains, or at least they were so far away that you couldn't see anything on the mountains. And the mountains were just completely black. It literally was just like a silhouette. And I'm sorry I didn't share that in the video here. But I decided that I would add just a few little pine trees. Now, by the end of this, you can't really see that too much. So I roughed in those trees with W10. And now I have, that's probably a W7. Yeah, it is. It's a W7. So I'm just adding the first layer to the mountains here. And of course, the mountains aren't going to be smooth, so my coloring isn't going to be smooth. So I'm just kind of skipping the marker over the paper. I'm using a little bit of the broad side of the marker, so I'm not all the way up vertical with my marker on the tip. I'm using a little bit of the side so that I get some broad strokes, because there's really not going to be fine detail in a silhouetted mountain. And you can see that I've totally lost my pine trees. They've just completely blended in. So, and also my mountain isn't as dark as I really want it to be. So about here, I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, where do I go from here? I don't have a black Copic marker, so I've used my Altenew artist marker in jet black here, and I decided that my trees need to be full on black in order to get them to show up. After I add more depth to the trees, I'm going to add just touches of that to the mountains as well, so that the mountains look a little more choppy and a little less gray. Like right now, they just look like a dark warm gray, and I wanted to have a bit more of that silhouette appearance. So hopefully there's enough of the suggestion of the trees that it makes sense that they're there. So moving on to the snow, I started with the C00 and just roughed in some little snow mounds there. And then I'm coming in with the BV20 to add some additional shadow. And, I'm trying to make sure that they don't look symmetrical. Here's the stamp set that set it all off. That's Heffy Doodle Eskimo Kisses. And I'm going to stamp the igloo in iceberg ink, but I did stamp it off. So this is a second generation stamping of that igloo because I didn't want it to be too dark. Now for the igloo, I'm only going to use two colors. I'm using BV20 for my darkest shadows and to outline each of the blocks of the igloo. And then I'm using BG70 to blend that out. So BG70 is a really light color, but it's desaturated. So that was something that I wanted I didn't want it to be too bright. So we kind of have some desaturated lavender with the BV20 and then a really light desaturated teal color as well for the ice. And I didn't do this, but you could also, the BV20, I think I've talked about this before, when you add colorless blender to the BV20, it will separate the colors of that marker into a purple and a blue or a purple and a tealish color. And it's perfect for ice. And again, I didn't add that to this, but I felt like the BG70 did enough of that to make this look kind of icy. So I'll speed up the rest of this igloo and we'll have a chat while I'm coloring it. So if you are new to freehand Copic coloring scenes, I think this is a good one to try out. So one of the things that I look for, because of course I can't take a class for every scene that I want to make, right? Like that's not really cost effective. And also in order to further your skills, you really got to try it on your own and figure that out. So what I would recommend if you're looking for a photo for photo inspiration is photos that do have some silhouette areas. So like this mountain is pretty easy. You just have to block it in with some dark colors. The skies I'm really getting used to for my particular style of sky and for my skill level of where I am right now. I just keep it streaky. And this is the first time I've added different colors other than blues. Like I haven't added the yellows yet. And so that was cool to play around with. And what I would do is block in the yellow kind of thicker at the bottom and then add a lot of white space in between your streaks as you move on. That'll make it easier to blend. But look for scenes that have large areas of maybe just empty space. So like I've done this snow scene, so I just had to add in a few different mounds and texture to that. And like the beach scene that I did that beach scene where there was a fence, some grasses that were pretty easy to add. The ocean was a lot like the sky, and there weren't really detailed images that I was needing to add. It was more kind of silhouette type things. So those are the types of images that I would maybe recommend starting with and kind of getting the hang of. Of course, take a class though. So like for me to even have the confidence to try and do something like this on my own, I had to take a class. So I took one of Mindy Baxter's online classes, and that really kicked me off. And then I felt more comfortable choosing a picture and giving it a go on my own. So this is the last bit of the igloo, and then we'll move on to just adding a little bit more texture to the snow. So I have the BG70, and I'm just kind of going over those mounds. You know, I had done the mounds before I did the igloo, and you can see that there's a mound inside the igloo, but I think that works because I think the snow would be kind of roughed up inside the igloo as well from where the Eskimos are stepping and whatnot. So we're just going to go with that. I decided that I wanted to bring the sun reflection down a little bit more on the ice, so I brought in the Y00 and the YR000. I'm blending that out with a colorless blender, and then it's time to stamp the cinnamon. I stamped the cinnamon in a dark gray so that it would blend better with the mountain scene. So here is the finished card. I haven't added any embellishments or anything like that, and I didn't mention the paper that I was working on, so I'm using a Hammermill premium copy paper, and I'll have all of the supplies that I use listed down below. It's very minimal. You saw the markers that I used. But I hope this inspires you to give freehand Copic backgrounds a try and to maybe search for some photos that inspire you and just have a play with your supplies and see what comes of it. Thanks for joining me today. I'll be back with more inspiration real soon. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and then hit that like button down below.